let's open it up and let's see if we can get some interaction going. Who should I? Okay, I see hands come up straight away.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about. Can you present some examples about how design processes? So, for example,
yes,
putting a screen in front of a musician.
So design examples. I'll give you another example of design processes. Have you guys come across Edward de Bono's 6 Thinking Hats? You have? Yes. Is there any book that he hasn't read? It's incredible. So tell us about the 6 Thinking Hats.
efficiency একটা কার্ভ থাকে এরকম যে কার্ভে যে আসলে এইটা হচ্ছে পিক এফিশিয়েন্সি নেবে আবার এফিশিয়েন্সি কমে এগুলো কমে একদিকে সাহস কম একদিকে সাহস বেশি এরকম জেনে আছে which book did you read?
That's exactly what we're trying to figure out. Good answer. So the 6 thinking hats are 6 hats with 6 different colors, and each hat, each color represents a perspective. So if you want to discuss something, you can put on the white hat, which is the hat for data. So, pure facts, statistics. You put on the blue hat, which is for blue skies thinking. So it means, how can we take a 50,000 feet perspective on it? You can put on the yellow hat, which is the symbol for creativity. Yellow is positivity. Green hat is creativity. If you want to feel emotional about it, you put on the red hat and you say, look, the fact is I don't trust you, and this is the reason for that. And then you remove the red hat and you do that. I used a version of that in the workplace. And if you have bankers, I can see one. Is anyone else here from banks? Which bank are you with? City. Okay. And there's one more. So, we used to have these horrible risk meetings where there was one side, the risk originators, who would pretend that nothing could go wrong with the proposed transaction. And then you had the risk controllers who would pretend that everything that could possibly go wrong will be catastrophic and we're all going to die tomorrow. And it was like the British Parliament, the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister shouting across each other with very little convergence going on. So you can, in such a situation, introduce the 6 thinking hats, where you say that, okay, now when anyone is... So let's all discuss the proposed transaction together. When you put on the yellow hat for positivity, everyone around the table will have to come up with everything positive that you can think of about this transaction. So then you see the poor risk controller squirming in his or her chair, trying to come up with all the good things that he or she can say. Now, when you put on the black hat, everyone has to come up with everything negative you can think of. And now you see the salesman saying, well, actually, this client, they did go bankrupt a few years ago, and we need to be a bit careful. And at the end of the process, you can still get a response which is yes or no, but everyone feels that every side of the issue has been discussed. So that's one example of designing things.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Isha Puni. I'm in the textile industry. Okay. My question is actually gearing more towards generalize and how this is actually more of a question in the work field. Because I am a female, I was an expat and I used to be in a bank. So a lot of people, they take it as they don't take it in a positive way all the time, like, getting directions from a female banker. Either times, I used to work in Dubai as well. Oh, right, invariably, it's Mr. Hamid, or, oh, can I talk to your boss? I am the boss. No, I want to talk to your boss. And I understand it's a mental mindset that has to change. And it's probably going to take a couple of generations before we get there. But how can we change today? Because it has to, I know people say that, you can be the change, but it's a big change for one person to keep on, every day we go back to the work field and be like, no, this is a good thing, we're going to do this, and we need to address this in this way because it's going to work out for the rest of us and not your way. How do you actually handle that kind of situation? And similarly in the banking field, so even in the textile world, it's similar actually. So people haven't really changed.
That's right. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this. I was going to say, would you like to take this question?
Thank you. This is a very pertinent question, but I think you all have ordered to ways of handling it, and every day is different. I must say that I've been in the industry for a long time. We face it all the time. Especially Dubai, as you mentioned, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, all in the same context. But I think the way to go about it, at least the way I have been trying to diffuse the situation, is instant confidence in the people that I'm no different from them. It takes a bit of doing, but I think being open, helping them to be open, helps.
Else?
Yeah, we have two, so we'll take both together. Would you like to?
You were asking about choosing the right kind of. So I think the context could be very different individually. I don't know what kind of work context you have. Let's ask my questions in the context of Bangladesh. There are so many noises that happens from external environment that I have to adjust everything according to the traffic, which is so stressful. I have got my personal conflicts going on. So as a person, I have to go through so many conflicts, right? How do you, what is the idiot switch that you have? How do you kind of think that, okay, these are the right kind of conflicts at the moment, and there is a conflict that I can, think later about.
Okay.
Now, while doing the whole process, I think what I think about myself, I think this itself becoming too much for me to think about the kind of conflicts we have, because as we're talking about the power distance, Bangladesh is a country where the power distance score will be maximum, right? So in these cases, I think choosing the right kind of conflict itself is a huge thing.
Yes.
What would be some kind of organic example you could bring to the audience from your personal life?
So one at the level of us as individuals, and one at the level of how do you change the norm so that there is an expectation that somebody is going to challenge me. And any of the books that I mentioned, particularly the one by Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow, gives you some pretty quick hacks as to how you can slow things down, stop yourself, and not get sucked into the immediate impulse of the conflict that is most available and there right now. And we're not going to get it right 100% of the time. It depends on blood sugar level and all sorts of other biological issues as well. But all other things equal, it is something that is trainable. It is something that can be operated on. It's not biology, it's not destiny when it comes to that. I'm more interested in how do you change norms? How do you, at a societal level, how do you make that change happen? And this is where I think we should look at it as any other awareness campaign that Bangladesh is famous for. Like we know our family planning and our breastfeeding and our sanitation and everything else in the development and the social field. We've changed entire habits of the entire country. Even something like smoking. I don't know if it's as cool as it used to be in my father's generation over here, but certainly where I am right now, we've seen a complete generational change in the attitude to smoking. Back in London and New York, attitude to the gay and lesbian community in the neighborhood was very different just 15 years ago to where it is right now. And it's been repeated campaigning at the conscious level, at the subconscious level, that has turned something from being cool to uncool. And I don't know exactly what the trigger is. Is it a cartoon? Is it a jingle? Is it music? Is it songs? Is it something more creative? But I think it is possible to make constructive conflict cool, and that being the norm, where somebody then cracks a joke which you know is inappropriate and is at the top of that slippery slope that you go on, but no one laughs. Or somebody points out that actually the point you're making is right, but the way you're making it is wrong. It's like that tweet. Donald Trump is his tweets are incredible from that point of view. I can pick so many examples. If you take one of them, he had a meeting with the New York Times, and then it got cancelled in the last few minutes for some reason. So he tweeted, I cancelled the meeting with New York Times because the terms of reference have changed. Now that would have been perfectly all right, but he said, I cancelled the meeting with the failing New York Times because the terms of reference have changed. So 5 minutes ago it was not the failing New York Times, but now it is. And so the adjective is there not to make the argument, but is to denigrate the other person. Now there are some circles that we all operate in, professional circles, academic circles, where you would not be able to get away with a comment like that. You would be brought to task if somebody around the table discussing and debating macroeconomics. Imagine somebody, financial monetary policy committee discussing whether to raise interest rates or not, and somebody makes a personal comment of that kind, he or she will be stopped and they will say that is not the norm. So what is the norm in one setting? How does that become the norm at dinner parties, in other settings? That I don't know how to switch, but if we can do it, if we can experiment, if we can try a few things out, are there technology ways of nudging people? I don't know. I'd be very interested in seeing it.
Experience?
Yeah.
So to that answer, I just want to share an experience. To that, we're discussing that how gender. So we are part of a community called Global Shapers Community of there are senior ones, young global leaders. But what we do is we keep them alumni now. But when you're recruiting, we actually look at gender very strongly. And a lot of individually when people come in, they're all leaders and discuss about it. But as a group, when we start working on multiple things, and we keep on talking about, oh, we're not gender diverse as yet. A lot of people who are not aware of being gender diverse. And after some time, recently when we were working, unfortunately a lot of women have dropped out over time, or shapers dropped out, or women. So one of the shapers told me the other day, it's like, hey, we've gone down on gender, we need to recruit more women this year. I think that consciously he wasn't aware earlier, but being surrounded by a group of people who share something, they don't really have to talk about gender all the time. But if you have some common interest in the group, and there's certain diverse discussions that happen, you're able to instill a lot of things and share a lot of thoughts that can happen osmosis of thoughts can happen over time. And that's how, because if I just going to talk about, okay, this is the direction, like traditionally people talk to, if you have a conversation, it's going to be only about gender, a lot of people get, move away from it, I don't want to talk about gender. But when you talk about diversity, okay, a little bit step beyond it. When you talk about creativity or innovation, you talk about the importance of gender, and people are like, aha, maybe that's something in there. So it's taking multiple routes, but reaching the end needs are very different. But it's all surrounded by a group of people, in my experience, that I've learned a lot about it.
I have a question to you. You were mentioning about how to basically change the norm. So, in a society like Bangladesh, I think we need leaders as to how we shape the thoughts of the masses. And I think we don't see these days very courageous people who would go against the tide and be the first one to say, I'm sorry, I don't find that joke very funny.
Right.
So we need somebody to stand up at the very outset and start that challenging culture. But in my experience in these days, we don't find too many of them. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, But if you want a norm change like that to start this constructive conflict in a place like Bangladesh, I think we need to look at something different. I don't know what.
Nice. Makes sense to me. The second best outcome is if you can have more emergent leadership coming from pockets of places. And 2 years ago, we worked with an organization here in Bangladesh, and we tried out a few processes in a handful of villages. And about a year later, we took stock of what had happened. And what tended to happen is that localized conflicts that seemed intractable ended up being resolved through these very deliberate and slightly artificial techniques of, you know, let's really go to first principles. Let's talk about where our differences are coming from. Let's put name calling to one side for a second. All of that. Going through all of those, I was pleasantly surprised that they were able to resolve those issues at the local level. And it seemed that it's only when it got more and more less local. So, for example, if it involved the political parties, they were happy cooperating on the ground, but the more it became something closer to the center, then they didn't want to be seen to be cooperating. And that is where the issue was in that particular case. But you're absolutely right. You clearly need the ideal outcome is you have a leader or a few leaders who are visible and who lift people up. But in the absence of that, are there ways for it to happen, bubble up, emergent from various places? That's the question.
My question was about something relating to positive discrimination. Like the times you get when you get on a bus and you see that there's 9 seats assigned to women and at the front, because women have a hard time getting on the bus and finding a seat and can get free rough, right? And in many companies we have where, you know, they intentionally try to hire more women a year so that there is more surface level diversity. So my question is whether positive discrimination kind of offsets the balance between surface level diversity and cognitive diversity.
It's a very good question, and it's clearly a matter of opinion. My view is it does help to have positive discrimination for a finite period of time, with the idea being that at the end of this period, whether it's 10, 20, 50 years from now, we want to reach a stage where it's no longer going to be required to have positive discrimination. But to kickstart the process, given that the starting lines are not anywhere near the same, I think it is important to have positive discrimination. So
When do you know that it's time to stop positively discriminating?
Yeah, it's a very good question. When do you know? I don't have a scientific answer to that, but I think that when you're approaching a level of parity where it then becomes an issue, you can sort of know, and then you can argue whether it's in the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. But at the moment, I think we are probably 25, 30, 50 years away, and therefore for now, I think it's absolutely necessary to do that.
Personal level, thoughts and brain. And I wonder, the question is like, what do you think, how to become non-judgmental and how to work with someone to make someone non-judgmental? I think if you can do that, so the destructive conflict probably is possible to reduce.
What I'm thinking, you can, as I said, you get trained, and in a corporate setting, when you first introduce constructive conflict and you say to people, I want to see evidence that you're challenging your boss or you're challenging your colleagues, you need to train that person not only on how to challenge in a constructive way, but you also need to train the other person on how to receive challenge in a constructive way. Otherwise, you have a complete mismatch where somebody is playing one game and the other person's playing the other game. So I think you need to consciously tell yourself that I am going to short circuit my instinctive judgmental impulse, and I will put that to one side. And if it looks like it's getting in the way of collaboration, then I need to have that conversation with the other person. And so look, I need to put the red hat on, and I want to tell you that I can't think straight on this one, because my blood is boiling. You've not been around, you're not pulling your weight, you're not a team player, and could we have a conversation on that? We're done, let's take the red hat off, back to the blue hat, and let's go and do that. It feels artificial, particularly at the beginning, but by deliberately agreeing that these are the rules of professionalism. Here's a related concept. What does it mean to be a professional? And this is a whole different talk, but I think it's important for us to ponder. What does it mean for anyone to be professional? A professional doctor, professional engineer, professional pilot, professional banker. I think if you call yourself a professional, that comes with certain obligations, and it comes with certain rituals and habits, which may seem quite artificial and even fake in a home context. But you're not, the workplace is not your home. And I think we need to be aware that there will be these stylistic differences in the way we do that. I mean, I get, one of my, when I get judgmental is when I'm here on a short trip and people get in touch, mainly through LinkedIn, would like to meet up, sure, let's try and find a time window to meet up, and then they're late, 2 hours, right? And it's, what's the thing? Choto bhai mone kore maaf kore den. I mean, the choto bhai thing doesn't work in a professional setting. I would if you were really my brother. But so that's what I mean by transversing from the professional world to the personal world. You have a question.
Recently, innovation accelerators by অনেক ধরনের organizations আসছে তো ওইখানে দেখা যায় কি যে মানে শোনা কথা এগুলো I can মানে give you sources মানে আমি শুনি আমার ফ্রেন্ড থেকে এরকম তো দেখা যায় যে মানে চলে ওখানে হচ্ছে দেখা যায় দুইটা টিম আছে পাশাপাশি কাজ করতেছে তারপরে যেটা হয় ওদের শেষ মানে দুইজন কামড়াকামড়ি করতেছে কোর্টে এরকম আর কি যে আমাদের মধ্যে মানে ট্রাস্ট কম তো ওইটা ঠিক করার জন্য লিগ্যাল বা পলিটিক্যাল অ্যাঙ্গেল থেকে কোন ধরনের বাইরের দেশে ফলো করতেছে যেমন আমার কাছে একটা লিগ্যাল স্ট্রাকচার খুব ভালো লাগে এলএলপি সেটিং এ যে স্ট্রাকচারটা আছে আমি জানি না বাংলাদেশে কোন এলএলপি টাইপের লিগ্যাল স্ট্রাকচার ইউজ করে বা আরো কোনো মানে ইমার্জেন্ট কোনো লিগ্যাল স্ট্রাকচার আছে কিনা যে এই স্ট্রাকচারের আন্ডারে ভালো মানে দেখা যায় ওয়ার্ক স্পেস মানে আরো কি বলবো মানে এফিশিয়েন্ট হয় মানে এইসব তো আজেরা কনফ্লিক্ট এগুলো তো দরকার নেই ওগুলা কিভাবে মিটিগেট করা যায় আর আরেকটা হচ্ছে মানে এটা একটু পার্সোনাল ইজ ভেরি পার্সোনাল ডিপলি পার্সোনাল আমার সিজিপি অনেক খারাপ দ্যাটস নট আ প্রবলেম হচ্ছে মানে আমাদের এই টার্সিয়ারি এডুকেশনে এসেও মানে আমরা পড়তেছি মানে আমরা সবাই পড়তেছি সার্টিফিকেটের জন্যই অ্যাট দ্য এন্ড অফ দ্য ডে উইচ ইজ ফাইন যে আমি চাকরি করবো ভাত খাওয়ার মানে আমি পড়ালেখা করবো ভাত খাবো ঠিক আছে কিন্তু ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে প্রফেশনাল ওয়ার্ল্ডে আমাদের দিকে দেখতেছে কম্পিটেন্সি আমরা যখনই কোনো বড় ভাইকে জিজ্ঞেস করি যে ভাই কি লাগবে সিজিপিএ 3 এর উপরে রেখা যেটা খুশি কর এরকম একটা কথা তার মানে কি সিজিপি এখন ইউনিভার্সিটি হওয়ার কথা সেন্টার অফ এক্সিলেন্স যে ওইখানে দে আর পুশিং দ্য মানে এনভেলপ অফ হিউম্যান নলেজ ওই জায়গায় তো আমি যে জায়গায় পড়ছি আমি বেসিক্যালি আমি আমার কোন জায়গায় পড়ছি নাম বলতেছি না বাট আমি যেটা শিখছি সেটা হচ্ছে চাবাই ইংলিশ বলা শিখছি প্রেজেন্টেশন দেওয়া শিখছি কিছু ফিনান্স অ্যাকাউন্টিং শিখছি দ্যাটস হোয়াট আই লার্ন মানে এর বাইরে আমার মানে লার্নিং নাই বা আমার যেরকম আগ্রহ ছিল ইন্টারেস্ট ছিল ওগুলো এন্টারটেইন করা হয় না আমার মনে হয় এই ক্ষেত্রে ইনোভেশন স্টাইফল করতেছে হচ্ছে মানে আমাদের যে অ্যাপ্রোচ টু অ্যাসেসমেন্ট যে স্ট্যান্ডার্ডাইজ যে আচ্ছা ক্লাসে 120 জন আছে এদেরকে আমি একটা কার্ভে ফিট করে করব তো ওইটার জায়গায় আমি দেখছি আগে অক্সফোর্ডটা ওখানে ছিল কম্পিটেন্সি বেস যে ওয়েটটা ছিল টিচারের উপরে যে তুমি তোমার ক্লাসে 5 জন আসে না তোমার ক্লাস কোর্সই ক্যান্সেল ঠিক আছে যে তোমার কথা শুনে না কেন 5 জন আসবে না 5 জন তো আসবে তুমি ভার্সিটির টিচার হইছো তোমার বয়স হইছে তো কিছু সো ওইরকম ছিল বোকনি মডেল ওইরকম ছিল কিন্তু তারপরে মানে এইটা যে আসলো মানে হাউ ডু আই ডিল উইথ দিস আমাদের যে মিটিং হয় আমি স্যারের কাছে গেছি যে স্যার এই মডেলটা কেন আমরা ফলো করতেছি আমি হ্যাঁ আমরা তোমাদেরকে নিয়ে ভাবছি সবসময় আমি আমাদেরকে নিয়ে ভাবছেন আমাদেরকে ছাড়া ওই মিটিংয়ে কোনো রিপ্রেজেন্টেশন নাই ছাত্রদের এটা আমি জানি না গ্লোবাল কনটেক্সট কি করুন বাট বাংলাদেশে আমি খুব এলিট একটা ইনস্টিটিউটে পড়ি এবং সেখানে আমাদের কোনো রিপ্রেজেন্টেশন নাই
সিআর নামে একটা পোস্ট আছে, সিআররা বেসিক্যালি স্যারদের মাউথপিস, যে কালকে আমি আসতে পারবো না ক্লাসে, এটা তুমি সবাইকে বলো, বা স্যার কালকে সবাই ক্লাস করতে চাচ্ছে না, কি করবো, এইটুকু ছাড়া কোনো রিপ্রেজেন্টেশন নাই। সো আপনি যেহেতু এখন এলএসসির মানে অ্যাডজান্ট, আপনাদের এখানে কি মডেল ফলো করছে, আর প্লিজ আপনি কাইন্ডলি বাংলাদেশের টিচারদের সাথে তার সেই
ওকে।
আর ফার্স্ট কোশ্চেন হচ্ছে লিগ্যাল স্ট্রাকচার। ফার্স্ট কোশ্চেন হচ্ছে লিগ্যাল স্ট্রাকচার, যে কি ধরনের লিগ্যাল স্ট্রাকচারে আসলে
So is there a lawyer here who can answer the legal?
There's one lawyer here. There's one lawyer here. Yes.
I ceased lost in after Kamara. This has been the highlight of this report.
Yes.
Do you want to?
There seems to be almost a cultural aversion to talking about things that could go wrong in a relationship at the start of a relationship. And it's much better if we are able to take the emotion out at the start of a venture and have a document that says how we will divorce in the event that we will divorce as a business partnership. It's only when you do not talk about it because it's unpleasant, or how dare you even suggest that we could ever be divorced. It's when you don't have a prenup that you have massive issues later on. So if there is a way to try and address those issues at the start, whatever the company's structure, I think that is a better way of, again, of being professional. I'm not saying you do that with your personal life, that is between you and your spouse, but in the professional world, be as explicit about that possibility as possible.